specks of blood on a pair of David Pomfret's socks. The police scientists called this airborne blood. In other words, it travelled through the air rather than through direct contact.
He's been bringing the crowbar down, and blood has been spraying from her as he's lifting the crowbar up, and from the crowbar, spraying from her as it's being propelled across the air, and it's hit his socks. So that shows that the blood arrived there during the course of the attack, and not while he was trying to administer first aid to her. He must have failed to remember that sometimes trousers ride up and the socks exposed, and for some reason he didn't give that a thought.
He hadn't disposed of these socks, and he had kept them, and this is what the police came across, tested, and found this extremely crucial bit of evidence.
This was to change everything. It was finally the moment that David Pomfret couldn't contradict their story.
Please, the patient's away.
No, he's very dead.
Okay, tell me exactly what's happened.
At last, David Pomfret confessed. Now, it was a completely different story.
The new line was that, yes, they'd been to the supermarket together to Asda, and then they'd both gone down to the stables. He wanted to collect his DIY stuff to fix a shower back home. Marie was going to visit the horses, but then an argument broke out.
She became aggressive with him, called him useless, and then even he claims, Anne-Marie talks about his sexual performance.
She started going on at him about his erectile dysfunction. He said that she went into a terrible temper. She started ranting at him and ended up slapping him.
And he happened to have in his hand a crowbar, and he hit her with the crowbar.
Before dialing 999, Pomfret worked fast to make his story appear true.
The first thing he does is throw the crowbar in a nearby pond. Then he races home to send a series of text messages, and then burns some of his clothes. He puts some trousers and trainers into a bag, throws them down an embankment on the M62 a bit later on, and he then remembers that they've been shopping at Asda, so he meticulously puts away the shopping. He even remembers to go upstairs with his DIY kit and leave it in his daughter's bathroom, where he said he was going to mend the shower. It was another 2 hours before he actually drove back to the stables to give the performance of a lifetime. David Pomfret, by now, thinks he's committed the perfect crime.
Let's come down to the table. She's lying on the floor in a pool of blood.
The only question now, was it murder, or was it the lesser crime of manslaughter?
Pomfret did put forward a plea of manslaughter, and that was on the grounds that he admitted killing his wife, but claimed it was due to a loss of control, which, if successful, would downgrade a murder charge to one of manslaughter.
He obviously attacked her. He kept attacking her, and he kept hitting her until she was dead. I don't believe a word that he was almost in some kind of trance after the first blow.
Now, David, please tell me why it looks like she's dead.
There's clothes everywhere. It looks like she has the head beaten in.
David, sorry, tell me that again. There's what everywhere?
Blood. Oh, God.
The trial judge said David Pomfret was an accomplished liar. Far from losing control, the murder was calm and calculated. The judge said that while Anne-Marie did have personality issues, David Pomfret had misrepresented her remarks to him that night, and his 999 call was a charade. He was found guilty of murder.
David Pomfret made a number of glaring omissions in his plan, and one of those was the socks that had forensic evidence that linked him to the murder scene. He simply forgot to change his socks whilst changing all his other clothes and footwear.
It seems to be the classic case of the quiet man who finally snapped. But in the end, he was undone by one tiny speck of blood, the mistake that would come back to haunt him.
Yeah, we'd been shopping, been shopping. Had some tea.
It's an important piece of evidence for the prosecution to present. It's not definitive. You couldn't prosecute a case just on the basis of that 999 call, but it adds to everything else that there is around.
Mrs. said she forgotten something, so she came down to the stables.
They knew it was Mr. Pomfret, and they weren't going to be shaken until they found something that proved that. And thankfully, they didn't give up, and thankfully, they managed to get him convicted of murder.
Essex Police Emergency.
Hi there. Hello. I need police and a forensics team to my address, please.
And right at the outset, that's That's an unusual request. And you can hear the call handler really go, sorry, what?
What do you mean? What's happened?
My friend and I got into an altercation, and I'm the only one who came out alive.
This is unusual. It happens infrequently.
I'm the only one who came out alive.
I'm the only one that came out alive. It's almost melodramatic, like he's acting out a role in a film.
Are you telling me you've killed somebody?
Yes, I am.
Right, and who am I speaking to?
My name is Lewis Gaines. I'm 18 years old.
What's his name?
Breck. B-R-E-C-K.
Breck?
Yes.
And then his surname is?
Bednar. B-E-D-N-E-R.
Keep right.
You're telling me he's definitely dead?
Yes, I'm telling you he's definitely dead.
And what I found interesting as well, listening to that, was you can hear emotion in her voice. She sounds shocked by what he's saying, but he has worked out his story. He's very calm. It's extraordinary, the difference between the two of them, actually.
I have a penknife. He picked it up, opened it, and then lost control.
Slow down. Let me just take those details here. Penknife on the bedside table. Brett grabbed this.
Yeah.
What, in order to harm himself?
No, in order to harm me. He opened it and
Right,
then lost
okay.
control. I grabbed the knife and I stabbed him once in the back of the neck, I believe somewhere near the brainstem. He turned around, tried to carry it on, and I think I stumbled on my chest drawers. I fell over. I got back up, backed away, and then I don't remember exactly what happened, but the fight ended with me cutting his throat. I believe I turned around and I slashed his throat.
Wow, that's quite an admission. He said very clearly, I slashed his throat. And used the word at the end of the fight, slashed his throat. So she won't really want to interrupt that, because that's the type of evidence that would be really, really important.
Lewis Daines comes across so calm, so cool, but very controlling. It's almost as if he's prepared a script.
Yeah.
What, in order to harm himself?
No, in order to harm me. He opened it and
Right,
then lost
okay.
control.
He's already thinking, I need to get out of this. I need to think, how am I going to present what's happened to the police? And he already has planned to blame it on Breck. They got into an altercation, and so he claims self-defense.
I, in self-defense, put my left arm up to block him from stabbing me effectively. We struggled. I got him to the ground. He got up. I got the knife. Can you not interrupt me with this part?
He doesn't want to be interrupted in case he forgets what he's going to say, but very controlling, really shows the personality of the man.
This is being recorded anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, this is extraordinary to listen to, because on the one hand, he's giving lots of detail about what's happened.
I grabbed the knife, and I stabbed him once in the back of the neck.
And yet at the same time, he claims not to know very important details about what's happened.
I don't remember exactly what happened.
Police, listening to that, would immediately think there's something very wrong here.
The fight ended with me cutting his throat. I believe I turned around and I slashed his throat.
And they need to know where the weapon is.
All I know is I dropped the knife in my hallway. I stripped down and just sat in the shower.
Right, you've left the weapon in the hallway.
He wants to make sure the call is being recorded.
Don't interrupt me, just let me explain this. This is being recorded.
He then says,
I felt like taking my own life.
I thought about taking my own life. It's like he's making sure that that information is going to be recorded as evidence. He wants to show how traumatic this has been for him.
Are the police on their way? I can hear them.
They are.
I'm going to go and do my part. Please, thank you for your help.
Right, just listen.
Police are coming in. They're piling in. They're coming from everywhere. They would literally be walking away from lower priority cases.
They have to get to that house as soon as possible. He's made it very clear that he has killed someone.
I slashed his throat.
They don't know how dangerous he is, and they will be racing to Lewis Dane's home.
Emergency services are attending an address at Grays in Essex after a 999 call this morning. Police and paramedics were seen entering a house after neighbours reported hearing sirens shortly after 11 a.m. Roads are closed and traffic diverted.
The crime scene, a small first-floor flat. The immediate task, arrest the killer.
So the earliest challenge for first officers on the scene would be to somehow contain their suspect. Clearly the officers have to go in order to get him. There is an account that he's given, but clearly various experts will need to then go to see if there is evidence that will either prove or disprove that version of events.
He fell face first on my bed. I tried to stop the bleeding.
In a scene like that, where clearly there's going to be a lot of blood to interpret,
I grabbed the knife and I stabbed him once in the back of the neck.
And possibly blood on every surface.
I believe I turned around and I slashed his throat.
That will bleed a lot, often with arterial spray, which will coat surfaces quite some distance away, so difficult to interpret.
I was trying to compress the wound at that time.
So trying to preserve that in that difficult scene and trying to get him out of there without losing too much would be the biggest challenge.
As officers discovered Breck's body, it was clear that Lewis Danes had not mentioned a key fact in his 999 call.
Breck Bednar was 14 years old. I think it's very significant that he doesn't mention Breck's age. Lewis was 18 at the time. In the eyes of the law, that is an adult. He knows there's an age difference. He knows that won't look good, as part of this self-defense story.
In self-defense.
Immediately, that would raise red flags for the police, thinking, well, surely you're bigger, stronger.
My friend and I got into an altercation.
When they walked into his flat, they found Breck covered in blood, and he'd also been bound with duct tape.
Officers discovered that evidence had already been disturbed. In the backyard, police found a bag of blood-stained clothing, including Breck Bednar's torn-up shirt. And in the bathroom, more evidence of a cover-up.
He takes every electronic storage device he has, puts them in his bathroom sink, and turns the tap on, and completely submerges them in water. He hopes that he destroys the device itself or the data contained within them. Water doesn't like electricity. Obviously, with digital devices like phones, watches, the data is stored in electronic format. So you can use water to completely destroy a chip or the device itself entirely.
But forensic experts were able to save key data.
Thankfully, police were able to retrieve information from Lewis Dane's phone. It showed that his story of self-defense just wasn't adding up. In fact, he had gone to quite an extreme level of preparation before Breck's arrival. It showed that he had ordered duct tape and condoms. He'd been texting and contacting Breck. He'd sent him a taxi. All of this showed that this wasn't last-minute self-defense.
Through the messages, police began to piece together the full story. For more than a year, Breck Bednar had been groomed by an online predator.
Hello, I need police and a forensics team to my address, please.
On holiday in Spain, Breck's mother had received a call from her ex-husband that their son was missing.
The next call I got was the worst call any parent could ever get. And it was his dad saying, I don't know how to tell you this, but Dane's just killed Breck. And at that moment, a part of you just dies. You know, you can't ever be the same person again. There's just no possible way.
At their home in Caterham, Surrey, the news was broken to Breck's younger sisters and brother.
My dad came in, just sat us down with the priest, actually. Just said, Breck is dead. And we all just kind of group hugged and burst out crying.
Detectives would only learn the full story from Breck's mother. This was a tragedy she had tried to stop, but was failed by the police.
Breck had started gaming with friends from school, and I actually heard a deeper sounding voice coming out of Breck's room. And it sounded like a man. And so I questioned Breck about it, and Breck was really positive and upbeat, saying, oh, well, Mom, he runs the gaming group. He's 17 years old, he lives in New York City, he's really clever, he's got this amazing job. And I was like, well, how do you know him? And he'd said, the guys have been gaming with him for years.